Also trending today, Statistics Canada says the country's annual inflation rate slowed to 6.3% in December. This comes as the Bank of Canada is expected to raise interest rates again next week. Manisa Danabolan joins us live with more. Manisa, inflation is still up and so are interest rates. Are consumers worried?
That's right, Kelly. Experts seem to be hinting that it might be another 6 months before we start to see inflation calm down. And they add that worries about consumer debt is what's needed, so there's less spending.
The decline in the inflation rate last month is largely due to a drop in gas prices, but that decline was offset by an increase in mortgage interest rates and retail costs. Food prices also continue to soar, but at a slightly slower pace. BMO senior economist Sal Guattari says it's a slow go to tame inflation rates, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
We still expect the CPI rate to fall through this year, but probably still hover around 3% by the end of this year before moving further lower next year. There's just under 1 in 3 chance that we will avoid a recession. A lot of things would have to go right. In particular, inflation would likely have to come down a lot faster than it is.
But with costs as well as interest rates still high, consumers are worried about debt. Economics professor Stephen Gordon says that would help with inflation.
The Bank of Canada wants people to do is to spend less. And if people are spending more on debt payments, they have less money to spend on other things. This is actually part of the recipe, I'm afraid.
He adds that consumers being unable to pay their debt and bankruptcy is also a concern.
The increases that we've seen can be handled by households. They had to actually show that they could pass that. During all this time, the interest rates are going up. Fewer and fewer households were actually in arrears for their mortgages. So we're not seeing things like bankruptcies or people not being able to pay their mortgage. I think what it looks like so far.
Andrew Grantham, a senior economist at CIBC, says at the moment, consumers should be fine paying mortgages and other debt as long as there's no other shock that impacts supply and produces more inflation.
I think we can cope just about with having interest rates at these levels for a year. But if we go to 2024, 2025, and they're still at 4%, then more and more households will have to refinance at those higher rates, and that's when it becomes really important for the economy.
And while spending has been high, the job market has been doing well. The unemployment rate is at 5%, the second lowest in history. Grantham says it's low because companies basically need more staff than they used to back in 2019 because of increases in illnesses in the community. He adds that it could be adding to the higher inflation.
Low unemployment rate means a tighter labor market. That makes it harder for companies to hire staff. They have to offer higher wages to hire those staff. So, that means if they have to offer higher wages, that increases their costs. They pass those costs on to consumers, and that generates inflation.
David McDonald from the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives says another contributing factor to inflation could be the Bank of Canada itself, but that's only in the rental market.
The increase in rental costs is so big. So as people can't buy houses because the monthly payments are much higher, they stay in the rental market. And so what that means is we're seeing rental costs go up. And so at this point, interest rates are adding to inflation. They're not subtracting from it.